Florida is facing a truck shortage with ripple effects that go beyond state borders. The issue is not just logistics. It is the price of ignoring Mexico's tariffs and the silent shifts in mobility politics. What looks like a regional disruption is in fact a window into the fragility of global transport systems. Subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what you are seeing on the ground, so you stay a step ahead. Global mobility is entering a new phase defined by disrupted supply chains, contested trade corridors, and growing strategic competition. The free movement of goods, long taken for granted, is under scrutiny. Every border, every tariff, and every transportation bottleneck now reflects deeper geopolitical struggles. Florida's current truck shortage is only one symptom of this broader fracture. Shifts in global supply lines began before the pandemic but accelerated sharply in its aftermath. Critical transport links were exposed as fragile, reliant on single-source dependencies and vulnerable to sudden policy changes. With Mexico tightening tariffs on key automotive inputs, the balance has tilted further. These disruptions reshape not only prices, but the fundamental calculus of mobility. The U.S. has relied on its southern neighbor for an essential part of its transport infrastructure. Mexico's production hubs supply the trucks that keep Florida's ports, supermarkets, and distribution centers running. When tariffs inflate costs, the mobility ecosystem contracts, forcing states like Florida to bear immediate consequences. Shortages begin locally, but the echoes are global. This pressure aligns with a growing global push for strategic autonomy. Governments worldwide are reassessing whether dependence on foreign automotive supply chains makes them vulnerable to political leverage. Florida's truck shortage highlights this calculation, where mobility intersects with national security considerations. The overlooked trade policies are now demanding attention in the form of visible scarcity. As supply lines adapt, the once invisible connections between trade and transport have become starkly visible. Florida may be the immediate theater, but its challenges reveal how mobility crises are seeded in boardrooms, ministries, and cross-border tariff disputes. Ignoring these signals means ignoring the blueprint of future disruptions. The automotive industry is now navigating a landscape of fractured agreements, subtle restrictions, and tariff regimes that distort production flows. Trucks, the backbone of cargo distribution, are caught in the middle. For years, silent agreements ensured low-friction trade between U.S. demand and Mexican supply. That understanding is weakening under tariff escalation. As tariffs take hold, Mexican truck manufacturers pass costs upstream, forcing U.S. buyers to either absorb inflated prices or delay acquisitions. Florida's shortage exemplifies the second option. Fleets are aging, replacements are scarce, and operational stress is rising. What looks like a procurement delay is in reality a structural shift in cross-border automotive dynamics. Technology dependence complicates the picture. Modern trucks integrate imported electronics and sensor systems from Asia. Tariff disputes with Mexico overlap with a global shortage of high-value automotive components. A truck is no longer a machine of steel and rubber. It is a node of digital and geopolitical interdependence. Disruption at one point cascades across the network. Policy silence has amplified the rupture. U.S. federal authorities have not framed Mexico's tariffs as a national security issue, leaving states like Florida exposed. The lack of a coordinated response deepens uncertainty in the trucking sector. Manufacturers and distributors are navigating fragmented strategies rather than a unified plan. The ultimate result is reduced resilience. Florida's roads tell a story of warehouses waiting, retailers recalculating, and logistics firms facing bottlenecks. Each missing truck is not just an economic cost, but a marker of strategic oversight. The balance of trade is shaping the wheels that move daily life. Security now merges with mobility. Trucks equipped with advanced telematics are central to modern logistics, but this reliance introduces new risks. Every digital system in a vehicle is a potential surveillance node, collecting location, cargo, and driver data in real time. For Florida's constrained fleets, this means shortages are compounded by the vulnerabilities of the trucks that remain operational. Artificial intelligence applied to fleet management offers efficiency, but also creates attack surfaces. A coordinated cyber attack could target immobilized fleets, disrupting not only state logistics, but also food and fuel distribution. The shortage magnifies this threat. Fewer trucks mean each unit carries more strategic value, making them prime targets for hostile actors. Mexico's tariff-induced disruptions create an unintended surveillance vacuum. Companies turn to secondary suppliers, some outside established regulatory frameworks. Imported trucks from less scrutinized origins may carry unverified software, introducing unknown data risks into U.S. supply chains. Strategic urgency is shifting from cost to trustworthiness of vehicle systems. Truck operators now face a dual challenge: physical scarcity and digital vulnerability. The effort to maintain transport flows under tariff strain exposes Florida to risks that extend beyond economics. The balance between efficiency and security is fragile, and adversaries know that bottlenecked states are soft targets. Ignoring this nexus is dangerous. The convergence of tariffs, shortages, and digital risks transforms Florida's truck crisis into a case study in 21st century mobility security. Every stalled fleet is both an economic and intelligence liability. Public and governmental perceptions diverge sharply across regions. In the United States, the Florida shortage has been framed primarily as an economic inconvenience, with limited recognition of its strategic implications. Public discourse revolves around rising costs and delayed deliveries rather than systemic vulnerability. European governments, in contrast, see mobility as a security pillar. The European Union has already integrated transport dependencies into its strategic autonomy agenda. Tariffs and shortages in one member state are treated as collective risks, prompting joint stockpiling strategies and coordinated negotiations with suppliers. Asia provides another contrast. Nations like Japan and South Korea have invested heavily in domestic truck production, insulating themselves from tariff pressures. Consumer perception there emphasizes reliability and national production pride, limiting exposure to foreign leverage. Florida's struggles highlight the US's relative lack of redundancy compared to these models. Mexico itself perceives tariffs differently. Officials frame them as defensive measures against U.S. trade practices, not as destabilizers of bilateral logistics. For Mexico, asserting tariff sovereignty is a matter of national leverage. Florida's shortages are collateral damage in a broader contest for economic positioning. The divergence in perceptions reveals why solutions are elusive. Without a shared framework that balances economic, political, and strategic narratives, states like Florida remain vulnerable to external policy shifts. The consumer frustration on the ground masks a deeper geopolitical misalignment. The risks of ignoring these mobility disruptions extend far beyond Florida's economy. A shortage of trucks quickly translates into fragile supply chains where food, medical supplies, and fuel deliveries are at risk. Scarcity of replacement parts prolongs downtime, increasing vulnerability in already strained fleets. Strategic recalls compound the problem. Manufacturers may pull back entire truck models, citing technical compliance, further thinning the available pool. Each recall decision intersects with geopolitical pressures, often aligned with tariff disputes or regulatory divergences. Florida's fleet resilience erodes in ways invisible until the pressure breaks. Infrastructure stress is also mounting. Roads and ports designed for continuous truck flows now face irregular patterns, causing bottlenecks. Maintenance schedules falter as fewer vehicles carry heavier loads. These silent accumulations of stress risk sudden collapse in critical nodes of mobility. For policymakers, the consequence is reduced maneuverability. Economic tools lose effectiveness when physical assets like trucks are missing. Strategic messaging cannot move goods. The shortage shows that without mobility resilience, geopolitical options narrow significantly. At the ground level, the risks coalesce into a single reality. Florida is exposed. What begins as tariffs in Mexico evolves into shortages in Florida and culminates in national vulnerability. Each link in the chain confirms that mobility is no longer a background function, but a frontline concern. Looking forward, the scenarios diverge. In the short term, Florida will continue to struggle with truck availability. Fleet managers will face higher costs, longer procurement delays, and operational uncertainty. Tariffs are unlikely to be lifted quickly, keeping the shortage in place. In the medium term, electrification could intensify these dynamics. Electric trucks require supply chains dominated by batteries from Asia. If tariff disputes continue with Mexico, the U.S. risks deepening dependency on distant suppliers, adding a new layer of vulnerability. Geopolitical tensions are shaping the mobility landscape. States are shifting from efficiency to resilience, even if it means higher costs. Florida's shortage will push the debate toward whether U.S. mobility should prioritize self-sufficiency over reliance on foreign partners. Technological integration will remain a double-edged sword. AI-managed fleets offer efficiency, but widen the attack surface for cyber disruptions. Trust in vehicle software may soon outweigh considerations of price or speed, redefining procurement strategies. The future of mobility will be defined not by abundance, but by controlled scarcity. Florida's truck shortage is a signal that transport systems are moving into an era where geopolitical choices dictate who moves, how fast, and at what cost. Systems are fragile, politicized, and exposed to trade conflicts. Ignoring Mexico's tariffs has carried a price, and the cost is strategic vulnerability that extends far beyond state lines. Stay informed, stay ahead, subscribe now, and join the conversation below.